Hello, friends, brothers and sisters in Christ. My name is Daniel de la Rosa, Pastor de la Rosa of Iglesia Cristiana Evangélica of McAllen, Evangelical Christian Church of McAllen. As you know, I've started a new YouTube channel, and I hope I'm trying to get on there every day, but I've been having a lot of work to do. But I'm going to try harder to do a daily devotional, and as I have my devotional, I want to share those with you as well. I ask that you continue to pray for the ministry here in McAllen with the Christian Missionary Alliance, and I ask that you pray that hopefully my target date to begin church will be April 26th. That's Sunday, in 2 Sundays. That's actually my mom's birthday, and I would love to restart the church then. And just keep praying. Of course, it's going to be through video online on YouTube. On this channel, I'll go live on that day for the first message. Okay, but I want to share with you today from my devotional I had this morning, and it's in 1 Samuel chapter 1, and it's verses 1 through 18. Okay, I'm going to read some of the verses as I go through. In the beginning, there's so many words that are really hard to pronounce for any person. And so it begins with the family of Elkanah, and this man is very important. He plays a very important part of this story. I want you to pay close attention. So there was a certain man of Ramathaim, Zophim, of the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah. And then it goes on to say who he was. Now this man Elkanah was actually from the lineage of Levi, and if you remember, or if you know, Levi, through his lineage, all these priests were appointed with these very important jobs. So understanding that will help you understand the importance of Samuel and how these people who were Levites, Nazarites, they were consecrated for God. They were set apart for God's special ministry. It's sort of like pastors and people who work in the church today. They're like the modern day Levites, we can say. And so Elkanah we're beginning the story about him. But then verse 2, something interesting happens here. It says, and he had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Okay, now this is something, having more than one wife, which is not something that God allowed. It's something that these men, they thought it was something customary. And especially in his case, Elkanah, knowing that Hannah, his first wife, could not have children. In those times, they were thought of, when a woman couldn't have children, they were thought of as being cursed by God. And so in their minds, the custom was okay for him to find another wife so he could be blessed with children. That's not right. It's just the custom that they had. Okay? And so Hannah had no children. This man, verse 3, went up from his city yearly to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh, and also the 2 sons of Eli, okay, were there. And whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. Okay. Perhaps he favored Hannah, felt bad for her that she had to go, and it was tough for Hannah to have to endure, especially what's coming up here. The fact that she couldn't have children was very heartbreaking for her. She probably was looked different, was frowned upon by other women, and especially Peninnah, as we will continue reading. Verse 6, and her rival also provoked her severely to make her miserable, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year when she went up to the house of the Lord that she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. So she didn't make things better, Peninnah. Perhaps it was the fact that she was a little bit jealous that Elkanah kind of favored Hannah, or just the fact that she was just evil. She wanted to make someone feel real miserable. And then verse 8, then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord. Verse 10. And she was in bitterness of soul and prayed to the Lord and wept in anguish. So we look at Elkanah. He seems like a good man. He really cares for Hannah. Of course, he's wrong to have two wives. But the fact that he has compassion for her, he feels for her, right? But this Hannah's getting to the boiling point where she's like, this is very hard for me, right? And then verse 11, and this verse, whenever I read this verse, I think about my mom, because this was the exact prayer that she said to God about me, concerning me. And it says, verse 11, then she made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant, and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. Talking about the Nazirite vow. And it happened as she continued praying before the Lord that Eli watched her mouth. Then he thinks that she's drunk, but it was her way of worshiping. She was speaking from her heart. And then later on, as we skip down, it says, verse 15, no, my Lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. And then she continues saying, that not to look at her differently. And then he says, verse 17, then Eli answered and said, go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition, which you have asked of him. And she said, let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. That was verse 18. And the message for today is this. Remember your vows. Remember your vows. As married couples, you make vows with one another. It could be vows when people who are dedicating their children to God. Pour out your heart like Hannah did. Pour out everything to God. Give it in God's hands. And remember that never lose faith in what God can do for you. But remember those vows. As a pastor, your walk with God is so important. And my advice for you is to get right with God. Maybe you've gone off the path a little bit. He's welcome.